All right, I'm going to talk about Florida quarterback DJ Lagway. Do a quick 2024 kind of season recap, deep dive, kind of analytical video, and talk about what he did well and kind of the expectations moving into 2025. This will be part one of DJ Lagway's 2024 season breakdown. The second part will have his best throws from 2024. We'll have 9 or 10 clips demonstrating the type of throws that he performed and threw well this previous season. So let's talk about DJ Lagway. 1,915 yards passing, 59% completion percentage, 12 passing touchdowns, 9 receptions, 10 yards per attempt, 101 yards on the ground. That's including the negative sack yards. So the season overview, if I had to talk about Lagway's 2024 true freshman season in 1 or 2 sentences, I would say he ignited energy into a Florida team that wasn't given a chance to succeed from the outside looking in, and gave them the threat to move the ball downfield. Probably saved Billy Napier's job. Right, he'll be one of the most talked about quarterbacks, not just in the SEC, but in all of college football heading into 2025. He was 7-1 as a starter, and his only loss was to Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. And he got hurt that game, I think, in the second quarter. And it was after he threw, or it was the next drive, a few drives after he threw a deep touchdown pass. Injured that hamstring, never really got that hamstring to be 100%, but still found a way to have success the rest of the season, even though he missed the Texas game. So very exciting season for DJ Lagway. So the main takeaways that I want to talk about for the rest of the video are going to be how he did against certain defenses, how he did within certain passing schemes, how does he do spreading the ball, did he hold on to the ball too long at times, his ability as a runner. We'll have a few different categories that we'll dive into. Then we'll have a game-by-game overview. We'll spend maybe 30 to 45 seconds talking about each game that he played in and the main takeaways from his performance. So let's dive into it. Let's talk about the defenses first. Let's kind of categorize it with the times that defenses blitz. So they brought 5+ guys. Then let's talk about the time that defenses dropped 7 or 8. Because there's a difference in how Lagway played here. And I think this is one of his next steps in his development. So against the blitz, Lagway had 4 passing touchdowns, 1 interception. He was blitzed right about 32% of his dropbacks. His yards per attempt were 10.2. When defenses dropped 7 or 8, yards per attempt are very similar, about 9.6. They dropped 7 or 8. The majority of his dropbacks, 8 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. So his TD to interception ratio was 1-to-1 on these type of defenses. The majority of his interceptions, actually every pick except one, came when the defense dropped 7 or 8. So he was much more comfortable against the blitz, much more comfortable when there were less guys defending the pass. Now, this is common as a true freshman. Defenses are going to try to confuse you from pre-snap to post-snap. This is part of his next step in his development. The ability to read defenses pre-snap to post-snap. I think another year in the offseason, I think another year under Napier, the Florida coaching staff, will help him continue to take the next steps. He still pushed the ball downfield. He was still able to have success, just the majority of his turnovers came when the defense dropped more guys. Let's go talk about the passing schemes. How he did on play action versus how he did without the use of play action versus how he did dropping straight back. So on play action, without using play action, 7 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions, a completion percentage at 55%, and had right over 1,000 yards, passing 8.8 yards per attempt. Utilizing play action, which was 35% of his dropbacks, and obviously in Billy Napier's offense, you want to rely on the run, rely on play action. 5 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions, yards per attempt were 11.5, so he pushed the ball downfield noticeably more off of play action, which is common in Napier's offense. And his completion percentage was right at 64.8%. So about 10% higher his completion percentage was off of play action than going off of straight drop back passes, right? Which makes sense in Napier's offense. But now I think the next step is developing the ability to not rely on play action, not rely on scheme and open receivers, and pushing the ball downfield that way. Still had plenty of success without play action, and we're going to see the videos that we watch here in the next video that we have. There'll be clips of him dropping straight back and ripping the ball downfield without play action. But you just saw him being more comfortable with play action in Billy Napier's offense. All right, let's talk about the deep ball, the ability to spread the ball downfield, the ability just to spread and open up the field in general, and he was elite at that. One of the best quarterbacks in all of college football this year, even as a true freshman. This is what separates him. And it's not just his strong arm. I'm sure he's got a strong arm, but it's his accuracy on these type of throws, his accuracy pushing the ball downfield. So when the ball was thrown 20 yards or more downfield, he had 19 completions. He led the SEC in completion percentage on these type of throws when you compare any quarterback in the SEC that had 30 attempts or more on this. That's impressive. His completion percentage was almost 53% on these type of throws. This is what separates him. And we're going to see several deep balls. Actually, a lot of his best throws are deep balls. But it's not just dropping straight back and throwing a bomb. There's several different ways to throw a deep ball. We see deep ball on the line. We see deep ball against the blitz, deep ball when they drop 7 or 8, deep ball off of play action, and different types of play action. We see different types of deep balls as well. So it's an impressive feature for a true freshman to not just have a strong arm, because a lot of guys have strong arms, and Lagway has one of the strongest arms, but the accuracy downfield. This is one of my main takeaway. This is not rocket science, especially Florida fans. You know that this is his ability, but it's what comes from the ability to complete on these passes. Now the underneath game is opened up, and I think we're going to see even more of underneath schemes in 2025. Let's talk about his ability as a runner. Athletic quarterback, can hurt you. It's part of his game. And we saw before the game against Georgia, before he injured his hamstring, there were some design quarterback runs. It was centered, part of the offensive play calling was part of him as a runner, utilizing his legs, some play action. Once he hurt the hamstring, we saw that limited. Obviously, they didn't want to put him in harm's way. But before he had his hamstring injury against Georgia, there were some design run game attacks and schemes for Lagway. So as a runner, I think we're going to see, you don't want to put him in harm's way next year, but you're going to see him utilize his legs as needed and when needed. Now, especially that he has the whole offseason to recover from the hamstring. How long does he hold on to the ball? So this is a stat that gets kind of skewed when you talk about quarterbacks with big arms and quarterbacks who can move a little bit. Most quarterbacks that are athletic, that can move a little bit, are going to hold on to the ball longer because they're trying to escape, trying to buy time. He held on the ball longer than 2.5 seconds, which is the metric PFF uses if you get rid of the ball quickly or not. He held on the ball longer than 2.5 seconds, 62% of his dropbacks. So that kind of goes hand in hand with reading the defenses. Defenses trying to confuse you and him trying to make plays. But the majority of his interceptions came off when he held on the ball a bit longer, but so the majority of his touchdowns. So for Lagway, it's kind of a give and take. You don't want him to hold on the ball and lead to turnovers or lead to sacks, but it's part of what helps the plays develop downfield and the plays that he does to go off script. So I think you do want him to get rid of the ball quicker. It's going to help the offensive lineman. It's going to help him get into a rhythm. But you'll take some plays where he holds on the ball longer than he should, because I think it leads to some big and special plays, right? So takeaway there, get rid of the ball quickly. You probably want to get rid of the ball quicker than you did last year, but it's not a huge priority, in my opinion, with a quarterback like DJ Lagway. So those are quick takeaways, talking about how he did against certain defenses, how he did on certain passing schemes, and kind of the next steps for his development. Let's talk about the game-by-game overview to kind of recap this 2024 season before we look at film in the next video. So week one against Miami, got some playing time, threw a pick, 3 of 6, 31 yards, and a interception. Mertz, of course, started that game. Then he started against Samford, had a huge game, 456 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. His first start as a true freshman. I don't care if that's against who that is against. It's impressive to have that type of performance for your first start as a true freshman. That's when you really saw the ability to push the ball downfield. Texas A&M comes up next, got some playing time, but Graham Mertz was the starter there. They lost. Then against Mississippi State, you started seeing what he would get put in on a regular basis. I think it was Mertz had 2 or 3 series, and Lagway had 1 series, something like that. So against Mississippi State, that was after Texas A&M. He was 7 of 7 for 76 yards, had 22 yards on the ground on 3 carries. Against UCF, pretty similar. I think him and Mertz split some time. Again, Mertz getting the majority of the time. They won 24-13. Lagway was 4 of 4 for 50 yards. 3 carries on the ground and 11 yards. So in those 2 games, he was 11 of 11. I actually did not even put those 2 together. Then against Tennessee, this is when he kind of started to bust on the scene. Against Tennessee, Mertz gets hurt. Lagway gets put in. He leads Florida into overtime. They end up losing to Tennessee into overtime, but he still had some plays that got Florida fans to get excited about. 9 of 17, 98 yards, and 1 touchdown. Against Kentucky, his first SEC start. Only 7 completions. 7 of 14, but for 259 yards and had 46 yards on the ground. I forget the exact stat, but of his 7 completions, either 4 or 5 of those completions, the ball was thrown 20 yards or more downfield. So he was just taking bombs, taking shots. This is when I think SEC defenses really had to take into consideration the fact that he can just push the ball downfield. All right, so big game against Kentucky. You get excited, you see what Lagway can do, then you play Georgia, you get injured, only 2 of 6, 47 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown throw was nice, though. One of the better throws of the season. We'll probably show that in the clips. But you get injured there, you miss the Florida game, you get blown out against, you missed the Texas game, you get blown out against Texas because you miss it. Then you come back and you beat LSU at home. 13-26, 226 yards passing, and 1 touchdown. This is when I saw some true development from Lagway because he wasn't able to push the ball downfield with as much success as the previous game. So you saw him maneuver in the pocket. You saw him take what the defense gave him a bit more. Same with Ole Miss, 10 of 17 for a $180, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. And you saw him take what the defense gave you against LSU and against Ole Miss. These are some big next step developments. Even if you look at the stats, look at the box score, you're like, okay, it's pretty pedestrian, pretty average. But if you watch the actual game, you see Lagway starting to really develop on these games. And you finish the season strong against Florida State, 14-22, a $133, 2 touchdowns, and 1 pick. You win 31-11. Again, kind of the what we talked about, how he played against LSU, how he played against Ole Miss. We saw next steps. There was one of his best throws actually against Florida State. Florida fans, y'all remember this. He had 2 throws that were like this, but one where he was dropping back. Florida State was getting pressure. He threw the defender off. It looked like a for sure sack. Rolled out, had one of his better throws of the season. Then against Tulane, they have a slow start, and you finish strong. You win 33-8, 22-35 for over 300 yards passing, 305 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. So if we're looking ahead, we're putting 2024 to bed. Now, we'll have some of his best throws coming up later. But he's going to be one of the most exciting, most talked about quarterbacks heading into 2025, not just in the SEC, but in all of college football. And we saw flashes, we saw glimpses. Now we're going to see a full season of DJ Lagway. So if you're a Florida fan, I think you need and have to be excited with Lagway, which is an obvious take, right? But with Lagway going into year 2, being the starting quarterback and knowing what to work on, how to develop, and then continuing to iron his strengths out. So Florida fans, I want to hear from you. What do you think about DJ Lagway? What was your takeaways from the 2024 season? Again, 7-1 as a starter. That loss when he got hurt against Georgia, unless I'm mistaken and missing something there, really helped energize the Florida team. Let me know your thoughts for the 2024 season. What are your expectations in 2025? And again, we'll have a video coming out here shortly. It may already be out depending when you're watching this video. We'll have a video going over Lagway's best throws from 2024. And if this is your first time tuning in the channel, we're a big SEC quarterback hub. We talk all SEC quarterbacks. We'll have more Lagway content throughout the entire off season. We'll have some all 22 players as well that we'll be able to do some kind of deeper breakdowns. But as always, thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing. If you haven't, like the video, share, all that stuff. It does help us grow. Thanks for following us along. We'll see you next time. Peace.